Hi everyone, if you're new here, my name is Kiana. Hope you're having a great day. My day is going well, especially because we are at part 3 of, I don't know what to call this. Still don't know what to call this by the time I'm recording this. Hopefully at the bottom there is a title that I am proud of. Please, Jesus. Okay, here's a little bit of a recap. 2017, Jacksonville University discontinued their Upward Bound program out of the blue. This program exposed high school kids who would not have otherwise been exposed to college. Either A, neither their parents had bachelor's degrees, or B, they came from low income families. Programs like this brought in black students to JU, so it seemed a little bit sus to me that this program just discontinued in 2017 out of the blue. If you want to see the part 1 and part 2 where I introduce some of these characters, I guess you can say, some of these folks, they're on my channel. So the first question I asked Mr. Kennedy, who worked in student support services and as a full-time counselor at the Upward Bound program from 1998 to 2007, was what was the history of Upward Bound at JU. In the last video, I talked about JU needing to film dorm space during the summer. The Upward Bound program, that looked really nice to JU, so that's probably one of the reasons why the Upward Bound program was even allowed to be at JU in the first place. In 1977, Mrs. Janet Johnson, wrote the first Upward Bound grant for Jacksonville University. Upward Bound was shut down in 2017, and by 2017, it was the oldest funded in the country. So that is what he told me when I asked him that question. And Dr. Glory, when it came to college admissions, she said that JU's Upward Bound program average was always higher than the national average. Basically, it was a program that interacted with high school students. During the summer, high school students came on campus from 5 feeder schools: Range, Ribault, Lee, Inglewood, and Jackson. They would get about 100 applicants each year and then narrow it down to a certain number, depending on how many slots they had for that year. In 1977, they took in 50 students. In 1998, there was 60 kids, which increased to 70 in 2007, and by 2017, they had 89 high school students. Dr. Glory told me that they always had boots on the ground, that she would petition Congress people for more funding. They would write letters, like they went above and beyond to make sure that these students had enough funding to do everything that they need to do to be successful like their more privileged counterparts. She would get parents and loved ones more involved with the program, and she saw that cultivated success within the students at Upward Bound and the other trio programs a part of Jacksonville University at the time. There was mentoring, tutoring, college tours, cultural field trips. They just wanted to make sure that these kids had enough information to be successful at these post-secondary education institutions. It got diversity into that PWI. In its later years, it brought in black students. And this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. I asked about pushback from administration, and Mr. Kennedy let me know that there was always some kind of pushback about having a certain type of black student at JU. It wasn't overt, but it was noticed. One person that did give their full support was Dr. Francis Kinney. And if you ever went to JU, if you know someone who goes to JU, you know how much of a relief that was for me to know that Dr. Kinney was that person that she's always been in my mind. I would have been crushed if that sweet woman was not here for us black folk. I would have been so crushed. In 1979, Dr. Kinney became Florida and JU's first female university president. She served president for 10 years. This video is not about her, but she was that girl in layman's terms. She did her thing. And according to Mr. Kennedy, after that, it wasn't as smooth sailing in terms of support from administration. There was always discourse about the utility of the program. Dr. Glory states that one of the reasons she believes the program was disbanded was because of the lack of return of investment that JU probably felt they were getting. As the Upward Bound population got larger, they started using classrooms, the Terry Concert Hall. So maybe JU didn't think they were getting enough based upon how much they were giving. As I understood, if the grant for the Upward Bound program was that JU got for the Upward Bound program was $300,000 to $400,000, JU personally would receive 8 to 10% of those funds to do anything with that money. So each year, right? Maybe that wasn't enough for them. The decision to end the Upward Bound program at JU was made 2 years before the program director at the time, Cecilia Severin, was told. In 2017, Ms. Severin told First Coast News they did say it was not the program and the success and wonderful things the program has done over the years. It was more a matter of them wanting to focus their energies in the other areas and not on the students in the community who need it, who don't generally go to JU. Low-income students can't afford a private university for the most part. I spoke with Margaret Dees, Senior Vice President of Economic Development / External Engagement at JU, about the ending of the Upward Bound program. Granted, she was not in that position when in 2017 or in 2015 when that decision was made. To be fair, she said this was her understanding of it. She said that they wanted to invest in Arlington, the surrounding area of Jacksonville University. She says that program and the students it was serving, none of them were from Arlington. She states that a survey was given to student groups to basically see how they interacted with the Upward Bound program. What they found from the survey wasn't really substantial. Here's my take on that. It doesn't make sense. This is a predominantly white institution, right? It doesn't make sense to ask white college students how they interact with black high school students during the summer, where the biggest group that came in 2017 was 89 students, 89 high school students. That doesn't seem like, there's too many factors where that doesn't seem like a fair assessment to make. And they barely interact with their black peers. So why will they interact in a community service standpoint with black low income high school students? JU ain't they're not cultivating that kind of relationship. They're not cultivating that kind of knowledge at that university. As someone who went there, they're not cultivating that type of stuff. They're not telling kids, us college students, hey, the people that need the most help in this country don't look like you. They're not telling us that. They're not facilitating those kind of conversations. So why would they do that? That assessment is not fair to make. And that is me saying it as someone who thinks critically, not just financially. So also, if you know anything about the Arlington area, you know there's Cesare, right? There's Cesare, and there's Fort Caroline. And Cesare folks look like me. They look like my cousins, right? Fort Caroline folk act more like the type of people that President Tim Coss, the president of the university, would accept in his home on a day-to-day basis, if you get what I'm saying. White parents will come to JU a lot of the time during orientation and ask about the safety of their students. And granted, yes, Jacksonville is not a safe place, but there always felt like there was like an underlying reason on why they were asking that, considering the population of some of the surrounding areas of Jacksonville University. When I talked to Dr. Glory, she said, yeah, the return of investment was one of the underlying reasons on why they discontinued the program at Jacksonville University on paper. However, she said another reason that she believes is because Jacksonville University was doing some rebranding in the Upward Bound program, and the type of black student that would be brought in from the Upward Bound program was not a part of that rebranding. Let's get into some historical context. And a lot of this historical context was really brought to the forefront when I talked to Mr. Kennedy. JU is a private university with a history of conservative politics. There is no infrastructure to support black students. That's it. That's why Mrs. Johnson wrote the first grant in the 70s in the first place. Both Mr. Kennedy and I noted that the kind of diversity JU offers, it's not for Black American students. Even when I talked to Alana Forte, the Senior Vice President, Chief People and Culture Officer, about diversity, the programs that she talked about, she also included male dancers and female athletics. As a Black woman, but as a Black person, a Black American person at that, it is very common for us to be lumped into groups. When it's about diversity, we're lumped into other groups. You know, the terms people of color, women of color, we're always lumped into groups when our plight and our experience are vastly different than the other people in those groups. Mr. Kennedy and I both also noted that because of the politics of both the university, and the president of the university being Tim Koss. Of course, the Upward Bound program wasn't going to be here for long. Those politics are steeped in the belief that nothing good comes from a government-funded program. Right-leaning and conservative, if you want to say Republican politics, they believe that nothing good comes from government funded programs and government intervention. But Upper Bound was a program that was government funded and it did work. But by 2017, there was nothing that could be done because the decision was already being made. Throughout this process, like I told you, I talked to Alana Forte and Margaret Dees. Throughout this process, I been getting a lot of sugarcoating answers from people who represent Jacksonville University. They've seemed, and not even just in this process. When I wrote that blog post in 2020, I got a lot of sugarcoating answers about, we hear you. When I did my senior project on Black retention and the feelings of Black students that go to JU while I was at JU, so this was at 2019, I got a lot of sugarcoated answers of, this is really great, we see you. They have been incomplete, and to be honest, they've been dumb. I would have appreciated the answer of, Upper Bound program didn't bring in enough money for us to care about it. That answer would have been just fine. I understand that universities and colleges are businesses first. Even though they claim to care about the students, they care more about donors. They care more about return of investment. Of course, that's disheartening because, as I understand it, this program, the Upward Bound program, was really steeped in family and understanding, like, students like this don't really get opportunities like this. So it will really help if there are programs and people who would take chances on these kinds of programs. But as always, JU is concerned with optics. And that has been my problem over the years. I remember, this is a little bit of a little anecdote. When I went to JU, I remember that organizations that were either led by Black people or Black organizations, like organizations for the development and enhancement of Black folks at JU, had a school-approved pool party. And a professor complained that we were playing inappropriate music. We were told that we may not be able to have another pool party because of that statement. And there were other things during that pool party that happened. And it seemed like one mistake made by people that looked like us, not necessarily the people who were running it, but one mistake really tainted how certain people looked at our organizations. And okay, yeah, that's 100% their choice. But what really kind of made me confused was that there are organizations that have had rumors and allegations of illegal activity that could harm women and other people. And those organizations are still up and running on campus. When that happened, I woke up to what exactly JU cared about when it came to what could be done and what could not be done by students. So when I kept getting those answers of, well, you know, we want to focus on Arlington and we want to do this, instead of just plainly stating exactly what their issue was with Upward Bound, and about how their politics informs their decisions, it just did not seem like these answers were real answers. And it's their prerogative to give me, an independent journalist, some kind of answers, but I don't know. So what now, right? JU has said the university has in recent years assessed all its community engagement efforts with the intent of focusing institution-wide more directly and broadly in Arlington while engaging art and students in meaningful ways. I'm gonna put a pause on that. So they understood that Upward Bound was a community effort, that there wasn't going to be much of a return on investment where students were going to JU. So it's kind of like, what do you actually want? Do you want to be able to control the community engagement? Or do you want actual people who actually need help to get that community engagement? Because after the survey that I mentioned that Margaret Dees told me about, you could have easily had students engage with Upward Bound. And the thing is, students that I knew, black students that I knew, were engaging with that office. It was a small program. How much engagement did you expect to get? Let's continue on the statement. 2 years ago, we made a decision not to seek the annual federal grant starting this year to sponsor Upward Bound on campus in order to focus on an invigorated effort to serve Arlington and its residents. The program has known about this decision for some time. Let's take a pause on that. According to sources, they did not know about that. I just want to reiterate that. I know I said that already, but I just want to reiterate that the people who worked at the Upward Bound program at Jacksonville University did not know about the decision. So they knew it for some time. Does that mean that they knew it 2 years ago, 2015? Back to the statement. In devoting thousands of hours of volunteer service to its community, Jacksonville University has formed coalitions with local churches and civic groups, led an effort to designate Arlington as a community redevelopment area, or CRA, and partnered in the Arlington 2020 effort with activities that allow our students to become role models and encourage elementary, middle, and high school students to attend college. I looked into this effort to designate Arlington as a community redevelopment area, aka the Renew Arlington initiative. This part of the video was more so about why did it end and how it doesn't make sense on what exactly that they say they want versus what they did. This next part is more so about what are they doing now with the Renew Arlington project. Stay tuned for that one. I didn't really like what I saw. It's not something that's like ridiculously out this world, but it is something that happens often. I already see it happening on the west side of Jacksonville. So to see it also happening in Arlington is like, I hope you guys are having a great day. See y'all next week. Bye.